All right, guys, for example 1 here on 362, determine the equation that represents the relationship between x and y. So we're going to start with trying to pick some points off of this function. The other thing we should automatically know is that this is exponential, right, which is y equals a times b to the x power. All right, and a couple things you should pick out. One is that since we are decreasing over time, the a value is going to have to be negative. If you look back at the previous video, it kind of explained why that works. So let's pick out some points. So the first one, the obvious one, is 0, -1. The next one that is kind of nice is 1, -3. And then the last one that I see that's a nice, neat point is hits what they call a lattice point, which is where the two grid lines cross, is 2, -9. Now, from that, I should be able to figure out my A and my B is, for both of these problems. So, my A is going to be given by this point right here, which is -1. So, y equals -1. And then the question is, what are we doing each time? Okay. So, how do I get from -1 to -3? How do I get from -3 to -9? Now, there's two ways you can do that. One, y'all can probably catch it out of your head just looking at it, right? You're multiplying by 3. The other way to do it is to take each term here and divide by the previous one. So in other words, do -3 divided by -1, or do -9 divided by -3. And if it's exponential, remember we're doing repeated multiplication or repeated division. In this case, we're multiplying by 3 each time. So that works out to 3. Okay, which means your b value, the thing that we are multiplying by, is 3. So the question is, well, since it's positive 3, why is it increasing? Because after you do the power each time, you are then multiplying by -1, right? Which means your overall answer is going to end up being negative. So again, it is -1 times 3 to the x power. Okay? So that's how you would do that. The key is going to be making this chart. Okay? All right. Example 2. First look here, it ought to be very obvious to you that this one is linear, which means before I do anything else, I'm already thinking this. Or, because technically they're the same thing. All right, so if I can find my y-intercept, that'd be great. It looks like I can just barely see it. It does appear that it's here. Okay, so when I do my t-chart, I can do some negatives if I want to, but I may not need to. So 0, -4. And then the next one I look for is 1. So 1, -1. And then if I can find another one, which I can, is 2, 2. That's probably all I need to write the equation of this. Because what am I adding to get to each level, right? So I know my b value here. So f of x equals something times x plus -4, which we'll clean up in just a second. And then what is it that's being added? Well, you can do it again 2 ways. You can probably see it. -4 plus 3 is -1. -1 plus 3 is 2. Or you can actually, do subtraction to figure it out. So you do each term minus the previous. -1 minus -4 equals 3. 2 minus -1 equals 3. And if they equal the same thing, then that's going to be your rate of change or your slope. You can also have counted the slope since this is linear. So 3 is going to be here. So to clean that up, adding -4 is just subtraction. So f of x equals 3x minus 4. And that is the equation. And again, to check yourself, take some of your points and plug them into that equation to make sure it does give you what it's supposed to. All right, example 3. All right, so this time we weren't given a graph. Doesn't mean we can't do the problem, but we have to figure out first, do we think it's linear or exponential? So a clothing store discounts items on a regular schedule. Each week, the price of an item is reduced. The price for one item the prices for one item are in the table below. Week 0 is the starting price. So they gave you your initial value. Okay, again, that's super important. So next thing, Is it linear or is it exponential? We go from $100 to $60 to $36 to $21.60. I can tell by looking at that we're not going to be linear because we go down by 40 and then we do not go down by 40 again. So we're decreasing the amount, which means it's a percentage, not a constant that's being added or subtracted. So we're multiplying by something. In this case, either dividing or multiplying by a decimal. So the real trick is going to be, what is it that we're multiplying or dividing by? So it's a times b to the x power, right? And they gave me the initial value, so they gave me a, which is nice. I don't have to do any work to find that. And now I just need to figure out what it is that we're repeatedly multiplying by. Well, since you can't probably look at that and tell in your head, the question is, how do I figure it out? Again, you take a term and you divide it by the previous term. I do division because I know it's exponential, right? And it should work out the same for any of these. So I can do 60 over 100, or I can do 36 over 60, or I can do 2160 over 36. And if it's truly exponential, then all three of those should come out to the same answer, which is 0.6. Okay, and they do. Feel free to check me on that. All right, so since they are all the same, that means you're repeatedly multiplying by 0.6, which means that that is your B value. And that's how you create that equation from the table without using, without having to graph it or anything like that. Okay? All right, so that is all the examples for 362. Good luck.